Villainess Anime. I love it. So I wanted to make a little ranking for all the Villainess anime I've watched. The problem is, whenever I try to search up Villainess Anime, none of them are complete. Like, I checked at least 5 different sources, but none of them had all the Villainess anime. Even Reddit failed me here. Each was missing at least one Villainess anime. So here today I'll be covering every single Villainess anime. And here they are. I'll still put it in the description if you want to look at that, but to make it a super complete guide to all things villainous, I have to talk about them all. But first, let's define what it means to be a villainous anime in the first place. Well, first of all, there's gotta be a villainess. Now, I'm not saying the main character has to be the villainess, but in one way or another, there has to be a villainess that the MC wants to save, be it herself or someone they adore. And on that note, there has to be something they save the villainess from. Most of the time it's just death, but other times it's death-like scenarios where the villainess gets shipped off to the countryside. But no matter what, there has to be a bad outcome for the villainess if nothing is done to save her. The next thing is knowledge. The MC must know what's going to happen next. Be it because they played an Otome game all the way through multiple times, or they lived through their life already and want to do better than they did last time. And again, this is important because if they don't know what will happen, all their routes will lead to doom, and nothing will change from the original Heretical timeline. And if we look back to rule number 1, someone's gotta want change. Now, something important to note. The villainous trope started with the villainess as being a reincarnation from Earth where the main character played an Otome game that then became the world they live in. But the genre has grown past that. There are plenty of villainous anime where they're just getting a retry on their first evil life. And like I said before, what's important is the knowledge of what happened, not where it came from. And this distinction allowed us to add more villainous anime to the list, so I support it as a rule. And if you don't like me making up rules, most of the sites that have villainous anime lists include at least one anime with a regression approach, so I'm not the one making up this rule. And honestly, that's kind of it. There's a villainess, and the MC uses knowledge from their past life to change the path of the villainess. Simple. And to order the list, I decided to put it in chronological order from when they came out so we can see how they evolved over time. So to start us off, let's talk about the OG villainous anime. My next life as a villainess, all routes lead to doom. And this was the anime that started an entire genre of villainous anime. And usually the first of the genre isn't that awe-inducing. It does have to be somewhat quality because it does spawn an entire genre, but after new and better ideas come out, it kinda just falls off. But that is most certainly not the case here. Despite the many villainous anime that came out after, this one is still one of the better ones. I mean, this one does all the basic things you'd expect from a villainous anime. Though to be fair, it's only basic because it was the original. When it came out, everything it did was brand new. But despite the basicness, it does everything super well. So Katarina, the main character and villainess in question, is going to die. It says it right there in the title, all routes lead to doom. Normally if a person were to know that practically every possible route they can do will lead to doom, they'd be a bit more panicky. But instead, Katarina is honestly chilling. Instead of worrying about what will happen and throwing away her chances with a second life, she decides to become such a good person. She knows what will happen, of course, that's one of the rules. So for each story of everyone that she's wronged, instead of being evil, she just does nice things that any non-villainess would do. But because she's not bothered about her future, she becomes the most charismatic person there is, and just straight up bruises up every single person that would originally have a problem with her. Like, they all just start to love her, and she kind of gets a harem, but I don't know if I could call it that because they're all friends. And like most isekai protagonists, because yes, this counts as an isekai, she is as thick-skulled as can be, and sees no advances that anyone makes on her. And usually in villainous anime, the MC regains memories in the middle of school, or the breakup event, or something big like that. But in this one, she gains her memories back while she's still a kid. So she has plenty of time to change the backstory to make it as good for her as possible. But in case all that prep work fails, she's constantly practicing different ways to survive out in the world just in case she gets the ending where the villainess is banished from the kingdom instead of just killed. And of course this one has the elements of going to school with all the love interests and protagonists, because it's an Otome game, and that's where all the events of said game take place. Now this one is so good it got a whole second season and a movie to go along with it. And it's the only villainous anime that got a second season, which is kinda sad looking at the others. I mean, at least give I'm in love with the villainous second one, but whatever. It just proves how truly amazing this anime is and why it deserves to spawn a whole genre. And for the next anime, this is the first to come out in 2022, and it makes quite the significant change that we never see again. I'm trapped in a dating sim, the world of Otome games is tough for mobs. Now, this is the only anime on this list that has a male protagonist. Every single other one has a main character be the villainess herself or the main character of the Otome game. I didn't know if I should even include this in the list because of that, but it fits everything else perfectly and is on other lists online, and this is supposed to be the comprehensive list, so I'm including it. For this anime, it seems like it was a way to get more of a shonen audience to watch a villainous anime, or at least capitalize on the success of the first one, but for a different audience. I mean, do villainous anime even count as shoujo? I don't really know, but I'm telling it as shoujo enough to be not widely watched by a shonen audience. I mean, this one takes notes from normal isekai and combines it with villainous anime. Instead of the main character just straight up being overpowered, he uses knowledge he got from playing the Otome game to then become strong in the world of the Otome game he played, which is different from normal isekai where the main character is usually strong just because. On the other hand though, he just rizzes up the villainous and the main character of the Otome game that he's in and forms a harem, like any other isekai protagonist would. Now, I do like this anime. It's definitely not one of the higher grade anime out there, but it's honestly the only one of its kind. And in a world where half the new anime coming out are clones of older, better anime, I do enjoy the uniqueness it provides. But in terms of villainous anime, this one definitely is not one of the top contenders. This next anime, Game World Reincarnation, is also special, being the only villainous anime that is ecchi, and the only one on this list that I actually didn't watch. It's not on Crunchyroll or High Dive, and it wasn't even on the definitely not pirated anime websites that I sometimes watch stuff on. So I had no way to watch it. I even started to believe this anime didn't exist because I couldn't find it on my anime list when I was looking through it at the time it came out. But I was able to find it on IMDb, and I found out it was on Prime Video, but for a price. And I'm gonna be real, I'm not about to spend money to watch an ecchi villainous anime, so I'm sorry I failed you in this aspect, but I did try to find it in all other places. But I can at least take a look at the title of each episode from IMDb, and yeah, okay, we're just gonna move on. No other villainous anime are ecchi, and every time from now on, I say this is the first one to do this, take it with a grain of salt, because I didn't watch this one, so it might have been the first, and I just don't know. And for the final one to come out in the year of 2022, we have I'm the Villainess, so I'm Taming the Final Boss. Now, this one finally starts to get back to the core of villainous anime. And this is the first one to have the villainess regain her memories from her past life on Earth right as she's getting broken up with the main love interest. This is different because in this scenario, she can't use her knowledge from the game to change the past, but instead she has to deal with all the problems the villainess would have starting from that moment. So the difficulty meter gets boosted up just from that alone. And this is the first one to introduce a last boss as an actual character. Being trapped in a dating sim included elements of battles with mechs and stuff, but the last boss itself was just a boss and not really a major character at all. But otherwise this show's pretty good. Compared to other villainous on this list, it really pours on the shoujo aspect where the main focus is on the relationship between the villainess and the last boss, where she uses her knowledge from the games to turn the tables to be the most advantageous in her situation so she can continue living. And in this anime, like the title suggests, she does this by taming the final boss. It's a typical yet loved by me story where the demons are actually good and the humans are evil. And because our MC knows this, she constantly thwarts the humans' plans to enrage the final boss to make him attack the humans. But yeah, I like it despite the heavy-handedness with the shoujo sauce. It's one of the earlier iterations of villainous anime, so it doesn't go fully above and beyond yet. But if you've watched every other villainous anime already, this one is a nice watch, especially if you love villainesses like I do. Finally, moving on to 2023, the year with the most villainous anime boasting 6 entire anime, we have our first, The Magical Revolution of the Reincarnated Princess and the Genius Young Lady. Now, I really don't know if I should include this anime at all. Like, it's missing a core aspect of villainous anime, being the knowledge of what's gonna happen that all villainous anime have. But seeing as many of the online lists included this anime, I decided to add it as well. I mean, it does have a villainess, but if the only requirement for this genre is that there has to be a villainess, then it wouldn't really be a solid genre on its own. Now, the secondary main character has her engagement broken up with in the typical villainous style that you see throughout the genre. And the main character is a reincarnation from Earth. But again, there's no knowledge of what's gonna happen. No Otome game, no regression, but whatever. I personally really like this anime. It's a Yuri, and Yuri will one day rule this world, so I'm happy to have it here. It's a story of an outsider who everyone in the upper echelon of society treats like garbo because of how she acts, and a girl who was abandoned by all because she was called the Villainess. The story itself did play out nicely, though it was a bit confusing at the end, but I might be stupid. I mean, I am, but still. Anyways, yeah, it's a really great love story. The animation itself is actually breathtaking, especially with all the magic and action. So combining that with the great story in Yuri, it's a really great watch. But does it count as a villainous anime? That's up to your interpretation. Next for 2023 is Endo and Kobayashi Live, the latest on Tsundere Villainess Lieselotte. The main thing this anime did differently is its react YouTubers the anime. Basically, the main characters Endo and Kobayashi are reacting to their Otome game. This Otome game is different though, because Kobayashi played it so many times and loved the story throughout, it actually connects to the other world of the game, allowing for the two main characters to talk to the in-game lead to actually change how the story goes. Now, Lieselotte is a tsundere, and I love tsunderes. And because she is a tsundere, everything she does comes out completely wrong. Kobayashi knows this about her and feels very sad for her, so she changes the story while playing the game to make it so Lieselotte can live out the life she deserves. And throughout the game, it just shows how amazing tsunderes can be, constantly showing the kind of terrible things Lieselotte would say and do, but then Endo and Kobayashi would make sure the prince knew her true intentions. And the love of all the tsundere aspects that Kobayashi had for Lieselotte translates right over to the prince, who in turn fell for Lieselotte. And then there's a whole love story between Endo and Kobayashi as their relationship grew as the characters in the game grew, just making it way better. Honestly, this is one of the higher tiers on the list, even though it does break away from the core of Villainess anime a bit. I mean, there's a villainess who has certain doom in her future, and a person who wants to stop the doom from happening by using knowledge of the future. So it's a Villainess anime, and it's easily one of my favorites. For next in 2023, we have why Raelina ended up at the Duke's mansion. Now, again, I really don't know if I could count this as a villainous anime. I mean, there is a villainess, but she just played the role of a villainess. She's not even one of the main characters. The only reason why I even included it in the video was because it was on multiple other lists. And, I mean, it's almost like a villainess. The main character was put into the book that she read, so she uses the knowledge of the book to stop her death. And in that case, it's perfectly a villainess. Except for the fact that the main character isn't evil at all. She's just a chill person, and her death gets resolved in like episode 6, so that loses a massive amount of plot right there. But after watching the entire animated day, I can definitely say it's close enough to a villainous anime. And 100% has the soul of villainous anime, despite not having the villainess be a main character. Otherwise though, I did really enjoy this anime. First of all, the art style is really nice, and it has this nice stylization to everything in it, and as you know, when an anime has stylization like this, it's quality on its own. But a main point after stopping herself from dying was that she changed the story. She was upset with herself that she changed the story that was going to happen later in the book, despite doing it because she was saving her own life. And that whole complex is needed to be an anime, so I enjoyed how she toiled with it. The next 2023 Villainess anime is the most heretical last queen boss from villainess to savior. Now, this anime truly takes us back to the roots of villainous anime. Like, actually, right back to my next life as a villainess. This anime is just my next life as a villainess, but like Grimgar version. Pride, the main character, and villainess is actually a monster. Like, the most monstrous villainess of all on this list. She was just heretical. I mean, I guess she wasn't so bad that she'd make her adopted brother sign a pact of servitude only to make him kill his own mother and then laugh at him about it or anything. Wait, no, that's exactly what she did. She was just horrible. And when our Pride, the actual main character, regains her memories of the game, she's absolutely disgusted by everything that Pride did. And instead of being happy-go-lucky like my next life as a villainess, she just becomes destroyed by her future actions and does everything as kindly as possible. So like the title says, from villainess to savior, because she does everything in her power to be good. And she uses her knowledge from the game to change terrible things that even the original Pride didn't have a hand in into really good outcomes that she forced to be that way. And after all of that, let me ask you, does she still think she's the most heretical last boss queen? Yes. Where she's always like, you'll need it when I become the worst queen or something like that. Like, brother, you are the savior. You ain't just gonna become randomly evil again. It's kind of on the scale of overpowered people in fantasy not thinking that they're strong at all despite being actually the strongest. But otherwise, it's a really good villainous anime where the villainess isn't just some school bully or ignorant of her actions, and it's just absolutely pure evil, so it's really good in that aspect. For the next anime of 2023, we have I'm in Love with the Villainess, and I truly love this anime. Yes, it's Yuri. You can look at the title and image card to easily see that, but it's really good. It's a tiny bit awkward at the beginning before it's able to get its bearings on the story, but after that, it's really good. And on top of following up on all the villainous tropes of it being a game, Rei, the main character, also uses all the knowledge in the game to change the world to be how she wants it, even bringing new things from Earth like mayonnaise, which is commonly seen in isekai, yet quite scarce in the villainess side of things. But on top of that, it really explores Rei and Claire's relationship. Like, Rei is gay, very much so. Where in most Yuri anime, they don't actually talk about it or how the person feels about all of it. But Rei straight up says that she likes girls and will never like guys, plus many other great things in this anime. And how Claire went from villainous to actually liking Rei slowly but surely, where you can see Claire warm up to Rei every episode until they finally love each other, was just great. This anime is a villainous anime with a huge focus on the love between the two, and both of them learning more about themselves and how they love, with Rei realizing that she should fulfill her love instead of sacrificing her own love for others, and Claire realizes that she also likes girls. It's easily one of the better villainous anime on this list. One big reason is it actually follows the villainous trope and is Yuri. And if you've watched enough of me, you know that I love any Yuri. And a quick add-in just to prove this anime is even better, both its opening and ending are sung by the voice actresses. And the ending changes each episode, eventually combining into a two-part duet, which is just a great song on its own. And as we all know, if an anime has an OP or ED sung by voice actors, it's definitely a good quality. And I can assure you this one is. And for the final villainess of 2023, we have Tearmoon Empire. And I personally count this as being a villainous anime. The main character, Mia, is evil. During her first try at life, though, it was primarily her incompetence that destroyed her kingdom, and eventually she got executed for being such a terrible ruler. She was literally Marie Antoinette, where she said, "Let them eat meat." Like, she evil. So after she was executed, she regressed back in time and had a book containing everything that was going to happen because it was her diary. And she also had all the knowledge from her previous life. So that's a check for evil and a check for knowledge and a check for certain doom, because if she continued down her path of evil, she would have been executed again. All marks for villainous anime. And the main difference for this anime and other villainous anime is its fake it till you make it aspects. I made a whole video on this type of anime, and yeah, but if you don't know what I mean by fake it till you make it, basically the character constantly fails upward, where every action they do no matter what succeeds. And every other character thinks the main character is so great despite the character not purposely doing anything. And then they have to eventually make it because it won't be fake till you make it without actually making it. And that's basically this anime in a nutshell. Mia constantly does things that she thinks will slowly help her out, but then everyone calls her a savior because she accidentally did something super amazing. So yeah, I really like this one. If you don't count it as a villainous anime because the world isn't based off a game or a book, and the fact that there is no typical love interest that dumps the main character or even a to-be main character, that would be fair. Only like 2 anime even had this list, so it makes sense. But do you know what doesn't make sense? The same premise of a ruler regressing is in this next anime we're covering, and that one is like on every list I saw. So the question is, why does one count but not the other? Because the other one has a villainess in the title. For the first anime of 2024, we have 7th Time Loop. The villainess enjoys a carefree life married to her worst enemy. And this anime is really good as well. Now, it's just like Tearmoon where the main character regresses after death, but this time she didn't die from being a bad ruler, but instead a war. And all 6 times she died so far was due to that war. And also, she was dumped in the classic villainous way, and every time she regains her memories from her past lives, it's at this point in time when she got broken up with. And this anime is also great. Go figure, because all villainous anime are great, But this one's difference is the way she uses her knowledge from her past life. It's not only that she knows what's going to happen, but she also has all the experiences she has throughout all her lives. And it's because of this extra knowledge that one person possibly couldn't hope to obtain that the main love interest falls in love with her. And plot twist, not really, because as explained in the first episode, the main love interest is the one who started the war in all the life she's lived. So it goes, I'm the villainess, I'm taming the final boss on us, so she decides to marry him so he doesn't start the war. But basically, she uses the knowledge from her past lives and the people she knew, who of course don't know her, to then eventually stop the evil king, currently Prince, from starting the war and inadvertently killing her again. It's one of the more political anime on this list, so if you don't like those anime, you might not like this one. Though it doesn't go into as much depth as others like Genius Prince's Guide to Rebuilding a Kingdom, which some people might count as a plus because there's way less yapping in this anime. But it's a nice one, probably not right up there at the top, but it's high up there in terms of villainous anime for sure. For the second anime of 2024, we have Villainess Level 99. I may be the hidden boss, but I am not the Demon Lord. Now, I've already made a video on this anime talking about why it's so great, so basically I'm just gonna be echoing that video in a shortened form. But basically, just like most other villainess, the main character Yumiella has been sent into an Otome game as the villainess, and is close to the core of Villainess Anime because we have the three main love interests past and the actual main character of the game. But at multiple points in the anime, the world takes over the main character of the game in order to make the story play out like it did in the game. So it's very so much still a villainous anime. But what this anime does to separate itself from being a normal villainous anime is it's a power trip isekai as well. As the title says, she's level 99, the highest level one can be in the game world she's in. So compared to everyone, she's way too overpowered. But luckily for us, she doesn't do the usual and annoying, I'm gonna hide my strength because, nor does she underestimate her true strength. Because she really shows off how strong she is multiple times without even caring at all. So it's the good kind of power trip isekai where the MC is strong and doesn't care who knows. And on top of that, Yumiella as a character is amazing. She has zero social awareness, she is easily the most socially awkward villainess on this list, and I can easily relate. I mean, she's all knowing in what's gonna happen in the game, but she knows nothing when it comes to interacting with other people, and I just really love her for that. And finally, we have the final villainous anime to come out so far, with Dr. Elise, the royal lady with the lamp. And this one falls into the same area as Tearmoon and Seventh Time Loop, where the world of the anime isn't based off the game, but instead its own world where the main character regresses. But it's different here. When she originally dies in her world from being a terrible ruler, she doesn't immediately regress like Tearmoon or Time Loop. Instead, she gets sent to Earth where, to make up for her past evil deeds, she dedicates her life to becoming a doctor in order to save as many lives as possible. But when she dies on Earth again, she is sent back to her world, but a bit in the past in order to change history and become a good ruler. Sadly though, she doesn't want to be a ruler. She is set to marry the prince and eventually become queen, but when she tried that last time, she messed everything up. So she decides to become a doctor in that world as well, and uses her advanced knowledge of medicine from Earth to advance the world she came from again to save as many lives as possible. So the whole anime is her proving herself as a doctor, and or showing the king that she provides way more value to the kingdom as its best doctor instead of its queen. And I'm sorry to say this, but there's no lamp. Throughout the entire anime, there is no lamp that the royal lady gets. Through the comments on this anime, readers have said that the lamp comes later, but I want my lamp now. Anyways, yeah, good anime. If you like stuff with doctors and medical stuff, then this one will definitely be a good watch for you because it's got plenty of that. And wow, that's every single villainous anime that has come out so far. If I missed any, which I really don't think I did, let me know. The biggest possibility will be something before my next life as a villainess, because I assume that's the starting one because it's the oldest on all the lists. Quickly, here are the anime I talked about again appearing on screen, and here are 3 new ones that we didn't talk about because they're coming out in the future. In the future, if any new villainous anime come out, I'll make a list in the description to make sure this list is as comprehensive as possible, as long as I remember to do that. But yeah, that's about it. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, you can subscribe if you want. But anyways, I'm Ayanoli, and bye-bye.